Welcome back to Stationeers, and I know I normally alternate episodes, but after yesterday's shorter episode I thought, I felt a little bit guilty. I thought, yeah, let's get a longer episode in. So instead of another alternate, game, let's get into Stationeers. And I thought I'd start with this. We already have this pipe here for the inputs, and I think that's probably a really nice idea to make sure this pipe is cold, or as cold as we possibly can. Remember, until we turn these on, they're not going to start feeding into the rest of our other tanks. So having this input line here, and remember it will be connected to a portable tank or another input at some point, having that cool things down even before we turn the system on will be important. Now that does mean that if I can control all these at once, and of course we can do that with a batch writer, then what I can really do is read the temperature at anywhere really along this pipe, I guess as close to possible. Maybe, I don't think we can actually fit it in here. What we need is a pipe analyzer. We might be able to fit it in there, like on one of these little legs, or just really at the end here. And then we can detect the temperature and use that to determine whether we turn on these filtration units. And what we'll probably do is combine that temperature with another circuit that says, hey, is this pipe at vacuum? Or is it not at vacuum? And if both of those are true, we'll do an AND. So if it's at low temperature, and if it is not vacuum, then we'll then turn on the filtration units. And if either of those things evaluate to false, we'll turn them off. And that will make sure that our input to our gas system will remain cold. We can also, remember, just feed in gas from the atmosphere if we want CO2 all the time. And that, combined with this, may well end up making this cold. So we may have to worry about where we place that temperature sensor along here. Ideally as close as possible as the hot input, I think, like here, for example, something like that there, or this here. We'll see how well that goes. However, this tank in particular is empty. So let's get rid of that for a second. Off you come. And let's just grab that tank. And eventually we'll just get rid of portable tanks entirely. You know, they're handy for carrying stuff around, but not for much else. And you'll see I've started to make a structure. I built the 2 walls rather than 4, which makes it easier for you to see things before I put a roof on over the top. I'm not necessarily going to need a block roof. I can put like a one, like the one of these, except, actually we could actually use windows. That might be interesting. But yeah, we could have a windowed roof like this on top, and I don't need another block to actually do that. So we've essentially got all the wall space we need to start thinking about stuff in here. So before I complete the rest of the building, it might be easier for you to see stuff. Speaking about that, I've just made some more steel, and obviously this is where all the steel went. We made steel frames. However, where was I now? We've got the temperature thing done on the input. We may also want to guard the temperature coming into our furnaces. As I demonstrated last episode, it is really easy to auto-ignite stuff in your pipes, and I was lucky enough that I only went up to half the capacity of the pipes in terms of its pressure. You may not be that lucky. So, yeah, there is that. So, there's a range of different ways we can do that. I think in a similar fashion to out here, we can have our pipe have these radiators on them as we move from, let's say, here and that O2. I don't think the O2 will ever be hot. It's more than likely this H2 will be, but let's just guard against it both ways. We're going to send pipes from those up and over. Now there's a couple of approaches we can do. Either we can just leave them separate until the very end, like I demonstrated here. We've got a mixer and they will be separate, and then finally they would have different ratios. Or, and this is more if you have enough gas, and I'm working on my own here, so there's not like 5 people bringing in piles and piles of resources. If you are actually working with a team, or maybe if you just do a lot of mining, what you may want to do is to have buffer tanks, and I'm going to give it a try. I will give it a try, where you have a buffer tank with a gas mixer before it, then the buffer tank with that particular ratio of gases in it. So we might have a 2-to-1 ratio of gas for H2 to O2 for the majority of stuff, and then a different tank for other stuff like that. And then that simplifies what we do on the output from that buffer down into our furnaces. So what it could mean is we could end up with a lot of our circuitry up there on the roof where we don't need to even look at it or see it, and we have a nice sort of a nice sort of setup for our furnace. Now, I'm actually just going to just put our furnace in place now while I think on. It is safe to deconstruct when we've got gas in them, that's fine. And we will... I think wow, I managed to rotate it correctly the first time. Yeah, I would say I'm learning, but I'm really not. So we can decide where we want to put this. I guess we probably want it about there. I think I want it to be fairly high. We need to be able to put stuff in the top. Well, we can always move it a little bit. Yeah, that's one higher than normal. We can still get stuff in the top if we need to, but the reason I want to do that is I want to then have an output of this and it being sent somewhere after it's produced, so I don't necessarily want it in the floor or close to where it was in the floor over there. Obviously, this is at, well, it's a vacuum at the moment because it's not open to the air, but that's fine. So we'll be leading pipes down into the back. This, unfortunately, is the output at the top, the inputs at the bottom. That's slightly annoying. Has to be said, but I think what we'll do is punch straight through with the output, and the outputs will all combine together or something along those sort of lines, and we'll have to lead it all the way back over there to this side of things. So we'll have maybe another buffer tank out here, just like this, but a permanent basis, and have that be the hot tank that eventually will get recycled, but only once it cools down enough through these radiators. So let's just see how fast those radiators work now, shall we? There is a spreadsheet that will work it out for you, but as you may have noticed, I'm more of a sort of let's try it sort of guy, and then horrible burn. Yeah, the usual. So let's just drop that. All right, so this is currently 772 degrees and it's 2.42 MPa. So as this cools down, that pressure should drop. And we've got mostly pollutant in here. We've got, and CO2 is the other one, really. So let's just get that bolted down. All right, and let's take a look now. So you see the pressure's dropping. That's because it's going into the pipes. Pipes here, and you can see the temperature's already dropping. So that looks like, well, as the pressure is increasing, that should counteract it a little bit, but even so, the radiators will radiate that heat away. We can always make more of them. Not terrible in resources now. So maybe that's dropping a degree a second. Does that look reasonable? Looks reasonable to me. And in here, it's equalized pressure now. So the pressure drop that we're seeing is purely that of the temperature being leached away, which is bringing the essentially the volume, the pressure down. And yeah, so that is going to work just fine. That does mean, however, that if I want to get this down to 0 degrees, well, thereabouts, it's going to take 700 seconds. So something like 11 minutes, 12 minutes, something like that. So yeah, what we might want to do is improve that speed, but it will be quite trivial to do so. Just extend the pipe, add more radiators, job done. Okay, so I'll leave that there for the moment, and then obviously we can trigger our filtration system whenever we're happy. We'll do the electronics for that a bit later. I want to sort of set up the pipe work and the furnaces before we get to the electronics side of things. So furnaces, output, I'm not going to worry about. I'm just going to worry about the inputs first, which means I'm going to need to do some pipe work, and I'm going to do it off camera because you've seen me do the pipe work last episode. So you don't want to see me do all that again, surely. At least I hope not, but you never know. I did get comments saying they prefer if I didn't do the structures, or at least they were terribly interested in the structures, and I agree. It's not once you've done one, it's you've done them all. If I do show new blocks, then I will probably show them anyway, and that's one of the things that I could show, the decorative sort of cladding blocks that we can put on there. One other thing I did want to mention, by the way, if you are on the beta branch in Steam, there is a brand new addition to the computer. Now, I do have a computer, but I don't think this is the Logic. Let's actually just give this a go. I want to actually see what this is. So it's not to do with the rest of the episode, but I thought, let's just give this a go. We want the motherboard Logic, I think. And what do you need? Gold and copper. Gold in the top, I think. Gold, yep. And let's just make one. And hope it's in this version that I've got right now. We'll see very shortly. let's grab the logic motherboard and let's just swap it with the manufacturing motherboard and just drop you for a second and turn this on. So I don't know if you remember last season, or if you haven't seen last season, I'll explain now, but the logic motherboard allows you to do a sort of a finite state machine. You can set up states, which are a fancy way of saying, you know, what things are set to. So if we create a new state, and then previously all we had was next state, so you set a condition. So let me give you an example. Hydraulic pipe bender power is on. Okay, so it's saying a tick because the hydraulic pipe bender is on. Let's turn it off. Now it's cross. And you can respond to that with an action. So you can get to, so whenever I turn the hydraulic pipe bender on, I can do something else within the machine. So I can, for example, set, whenever I turn this on, it should start evacuating that, it should start up our filtration system. For some reason, that would be what it would do. And then when it evaluated that condition, it would move on to the next state and test that as well. However, this latest version now adds a false state. So you can have branching logic in here. Now, I'm not going to show it for just now, but I will just preview it, and then I'm sure we'll find lots of uses for it. I think that someone did say, I'm not sure if it was in my comments or I saw it somewhere, that you can just completely do solo control with one computer now. I think that's still more power than we're using here, but it'll probably be less power than we use if we go to like a full setup for solo control, where it's accurately tracking the sun. You can see it already, we're at full power, so we don't really need any other power at the moment. However, it'll be useful to just to set it up as an example at some point. So I just thought I'd give you all a quick preview of that. You're more than likely to have a play with the beta branch if you want to, and later we'll come back. Is that working? Yes, it is. We'll come back to that and create some setups to maybe show an alternative to electronics. Electronics good for power efficiency if you've got small numbers of electronics. If you've got large numbers, what you might have to do is shut them on and off by a different set of electronics. Last season I had a really good setup whereby when it was dark, when it was nighttime, the majority of a large set of electronics I had for accurately tracking the sun were turned off. The only thing that was left on was like something to evaluate the sensor, and I think that was it. I can't remember exactly, but it was quite efficient, and I did enjoy that one quite a lot. But yeah, we may do the same thing with a computer, I guess, at the end of the day. If we just had it said, as soon as the, well, as long as the bug is sorted whereby the states used to disappear. If that's solved now, then it'll be quite good, because you can just detect if the sun's up. If the sun's up, switch the computer on, and that's it for logic, really. And if the sun isn't up, you can have the fault state say turn the computer off, and the computer should handle the rest if we set it up right. Anyway, back onto pipework. I'm going to go and start moving stuff around. Okay, so we've got all the way from here, from our oxygen tank, which is right below me, up into this pipe. I need to just colour our last few sections, but this is the white pipe for oxygen. Along the top here, we've just got frames going over to carry the pipe, or rather carry me while I'm putting pipe down. Here is our second pipe coming from the H2. Again, I'll colour all this red later. And over here, I've brought in some power all the way over there from where the computer is, up the wall. And now there's a couple of things that we can't do just yet. One is that pipe analyzer I was talking about, and the digital valve we'll use to control things, needs advanced alloys. It needs Invar and it needs Electrum. So I think what we're going to want to do is, for the moment, just check it out manually and get that up and running. So H2 is O2 418 moles. There's quite a lot more of it there. So what I'm going to probably want it to do is build another furnace and then have that as my input, and I'll go and grab some volatiles just to quickly fill up our H2 system. But other than that, we've now got potentially a buffer tank here, so we can, if we assume that we're going to be, we've got our power here. If we're going to be detecting, let's say here, the temperature with a pipe analyzer on both of them, and we can open both of those. We'll do a batch writer. that is for, and they'll fit with a pipe in between them in this block space. So we've got to go into this block space to really deal with mixer, I think. So we'll put that mixer back. There we go. So we've got to choose a place for this, and that shouldn't be terrible. In fact, that's pretty good. Let me actually rotate that. Oh no, I can't rotate it. It has to be this way around. That's annoying. No, that won't be too bad because we can just go straight across. Yeah, and we can just go straight across with this. Okay, that will work. Whoops, nearly stepped off the edge. And I'll just leave one extra space there just so I can sort out the cabling. If I need some space later or indeed another pipe or something like that, that will do just fine. Okay, so from this point onwards, it's going to be mixed in the right ratios, and let's just make sure we set that. So our inputs are, that's gas mix 2, which is the hydrogen. So hydrogen needs to be, oops, let me just make that. Gas input 2, yeah, so input 2 needs to be the higher one. Wrong way. And let's just get it, yeah, there we go. So once I connect that in, from this point onwards, when the gas mixer goes on, will probably be best, actually, let's just, I know what we'll do. We'll just simulate what we're going to do once we've got alloys. So we're going to get that sorted. And we're just going to pull both of these out. Whoops, grab that as well. There you go. And then we're just going to put manual valves in for now, because they're going to take up the same space as automatic ones. Doesn't much matter which way around you put these. And they're both blocked off at the moment. So these will still show pressure, of course, because we separated things. So, we'll detect manually, hey, are you the right temperature? Yeah, sort of okay. And once I refill it, these should be much, much lower temperature than we tried last time and should be fine. We'll use some, again, temperature sensing here to turn the digital version of these on and off. So that will be good. We may have to deal with where the power cable goes in, because we may have to face them opposite directions, but that's something we'll figure out. You can now go in here. Okay, and now we have this buffer tank at the back here. Let's just grab... we're going to want a corner. I think we're going to want a junction of some kind. We're going to want to have this just mixed. And we need to be a bit careful. Yeah, because if I'm not careful, I'll bleed the whole system dry. As long as there is enough H2 and O2 to keep in balance, once this is set up, it will feed everything through. So this will end up mixed in this tank, which is sort of okay, but it doesn't leave me much room to breathe if I want to breathe oxygen. So we're going to have to keep something back. So we may have to add some more logic to decide whether to turn this on or off. Simply enough, though, however, if we have a valve on either pipe, it doesn't matter which one. So if we put a pipe or a manual valve down there, we could just switch that on, and it would make sure that our O2 tank wouldn't be drained. So that if we were pulling from our hydroponics, we'd make sure we'd maintained O2. And however, if we didn't need that, we'd turn it back on, and then this tank would start filling. So that's relatively straightforward. What we may have to do is just separate out those sort of in a kind of balancer system. So we could take the main O2 tank there and have a second one or something like that, and just feed it equally to both. We're using pressure regulators or something to pull from a common pipe, and then one of them would feed our furnace and the other one would just stay as a nice system for me to breathe when I actually need it. However, that's for another day. In the meantime, because I've got, I know that's 8K canister down there, so I'm not too concerned about using it up. And of course, I'm going to be out of pipe. But the idea is we're going to put it into here. This will then act as a buffer and anything fed this way. And then from that, we'll go down and into the bottom of the furnace. And just behind the furnace, we'll be able to have some kind of control. Let's just step down there. We'll have some control back here to, you can see I've been making steel, to just pressurize at a push of a button, like say the wall here. We're going to pressurize this to 100k or so. This is much higher now because of what I've been doing, but 100k from the back of that tank. So let's just grab you, and we're going to want to be feeding down through this. Yeah, so we'll be able to pull that back down here. And the output, yeah, for now we don't need to worry about it too much. Okay, so I'm just going to grab some volatiles, and let's go and look at the input furnace that I've got running over here. It's nothing terribly complicated, and a bit of a puzzle as well while I'm here. So we've got a pressure regulator. Let's just put that down for a second. The pressure regulator is pulling everything out of the output of this, and this is just acting as a thing I can dump ores into, which will work just fine. It's vacuum on this side. On this side, however, let me just grab that for a second. On this side, it's at -34. That's pretty good. Okay, so we're also equalized pressure between these two. So these two are connected. The only problem there is that this is -34. This is 191. Now it is falling, but I'd really expect that would fall a great deal. It would, it would equalize. These are two. Granted, there is more, stuff in here, but they're at the same pressure, and I would expect the flow just to equalize, the temperature here. There's only one connector on a tank connector, so it's not like I can run them in one side and out another to create a constant flow, like a convection flow, unfortunately. So, and the wall cooler is any kind of thing you can do, except for an air conditioner. So I think I may have to wait for an air conditioner to get this to functionally work, unless anyone can think of a passive way of getting this temperature to drop a lot faster. I think we'll stick with the air conditioner, but just in case anyone wants to suggest anything cool, feel free to. That is fine. I guess we could sort of just flow them between two tanks and have a circuit. Seems a bit odd, but yeah, in any case, that is still heated. So let's just drop some volatiles in the top here and grab this. So that's now input. You can see there is pressure in there. That's world pressure, sorry. Pipe network, there we go. So that's dropping quite quickly. It's being put into this system. And now look at the temperature. Drop down to 20 degrees. Much nicer. Okay, so we can probably start up our system now. So I guess one way is just dumping in volatiles at a low temperature, but we can turn on the system, and this is where we'll have this done electronically soon enough, but we're not going to need nitrogen, I don't think. What did we have in here? Let's have a look. Let's just turn it all on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And how is our pollutant system doing? It is... that's okay. That's not too bad. There are lots of radiators on this end, of course, making that a lot better. We're at vacuum already, and our temperature going out to our oxygen tank is -10 degrees. That's got lots of oxygen in it, or relatively lots. And the hydrogen, on the other hand, it's better than it was. Yeah, and that's also at -6 degrees as well. Remember, this is actually a really fast system, so that will have already evacuated this tank, I would imagine. Let's just take a look. Yep, that tank's already gone. So if we want to feed more hydrogen to the system, and I think I do, just because I can always get more. May have left that a little bit too long. Ignore that and walk away. Walk away. And let's just put this in as well. We'll leave it on, and that should... Yeah, there we go. So it's still feeding in, and there it's going back down again. So it feeds in really fast. It's full stack, just going straight into our system, and straight, presumably, into our H2 tank. So yeah, there we go. Got the H2 going up to 900 moles. Pretty good. And we can do the same thing with our oxides. Do I have any more oxides? I've got ice. I don't necessarily want ice. Oxides. There we go. We'll feed that in as well. And just make sure we've got the system fairly pressurized for the next step. Off it goes. And oxides also release some nitrogen, so we'll take the nitrogen as well. We won't need the nitrogen too much until we come to pressurizing the base at some point, and that will let us mix in lots more nitrogen with our oxygen and have a relatively normal pressure atmosphere. So back over to the buffer tank. Okay, so over at the buffer tank, which is up there, we've now got an output from the back of the furnace. We've got a valve here. This will essentially open electronically. We're going to have a full electronics episode next time with lots of automation going on. So that will be a digital valve. Further out, however, we're going to need something else here, and I think we're going to put a volume pump, which is just going to be permanently on, I think. That way. I'm going to need to hook that up. But, yeah, that's perfectly fine. And we're going to leave that permanently on. We're going to connect that. So as soon as this valve is opened, it's going to pull everything out of there into this portable tank, which is a temporary thing, before we feed it back over into the inputs of our filtration system. And on the blower side, we're going to use that, of course, for our input. So I'm going to need to put something in here. I'm going to want to pressurize this, so let's just put that there. I'm going to need to build... Remember all that copper I was just using to make lots and lots of cable? Yeah, I ran out of copper, so I just went and grabbed some more. We're going to use a pressure regulator again, and let's just create one of you. It won't take very long at all. And I was just thinking, what? Oh, that's actually done already. While I was doing this, I was just thinking we may only need control of the O2 valve there. We may not even need a valve for the H2, because everything else is just passing, you know, from whether O2 is being supplied or not, and the gas mixer will deal with it accordingly. So yeah, I mean, once we have more than one gas mixer up there to more than one buffer tank of different mixers, that's going to be more interesting. But to start off with, we may only need one to deal with. And then here, we're going to have a pressure regulator. That's a shame. That's kind of where I wanted. I mean, I can turn it around the other way, but I sort of wanted to control that. In fact, hang on. Did I just put that the wrong way around? Grab the tools. This is the input, remember? So no, it wasn't the wrong way around. Yes, it was. That's fine. I can actually get to it on this side, and this will be just set to 100 kPa. Again, I'll have to click for a while to do that, but this will let us set the regulator pressure. Again, we'll do this also electronically as well. Don't worry about all this. We're not going to be doing this manually. And then we'll just be able to set a pressure, turn it on, and it will pressurize our furnace to that pressure. And this then just needs to be hooked straight to our buffer tank, which of course is nothing you need to see, and the rest of the output of our gas mixer. So let's just see what the temperature's like, and then we'll go and turn that gas mixer on, just make sure that works. So that's at minus 3.8, and this is at minus 6.9. So let's just head up there. I ran out of backpack fuel, by the way, and if I haven't mentioned that, backpack fuel, jetpack fuel. If I haven't mentioned that before, I swapped over with my waste tank, so I'm now using my own carbon dioxide to replace that with. And given the amount of carbon dioxide we can get, I think I'm going to put a refill on the CO2 tank over there and use that for jetpack fuel, because we have a massive environment full of infinite CO2. So here we are. Let's just put that away for a second. This should be hooked up and to be able to be turned on. So this is O2. Let's just turn it back off again. 180 PA. That's not very much at all, but that is certainly not combusting, which is good. Which is very, very good. Okay, so what happens if I turn that on? Is that going to pressurize? That's just going to mix. So we're going to need something to pump that, I think, through the system. Oh, hang on. We've got our valves closed, haven't we? Let's just open the valves. There we go. That's much better. Let's just close them off again. So that's 101 MPa. And if I just open the H2 valve permanently, yep, that's not going up. So that's quite nice. So all we need is essentially one valve, and we open that, and it will start feeding in a mix, and close that, and we'll have a digital valve there to actually do that. So we've now got 1.92 MPa of a really nice mix for our furnace. And then we can go and feed that in to indeed our furnace. So from here, we're going to be going down and towards me. So we're going to need a three-way corner. Yes, like that. And then I'll do the rest off camera. We'll just make sure this is fed in. Do I have enough? Oh, three, 1, 2, and I'm one short. Told you this happens. So we want 1 and probably about 10, maybe 15 more. So let's just make another stack of pipe from some iron, and then we should get everything up and running. Well, at least, you know, manually up and running. Okay, so shall we take a look at this? Now everything's cabled in. We've got our power cable coming in here. We've got a pressure regulator. It's off at the moment, so on this side is nothing. On this side, however, is our buffer tank's pressure coming from up there, which is hooked up to the rest of the system. On the other side, we've got an empty pipe because this valve is closed. Remember, this will be electronically controlled, and this volume pump is on at the moment. We could use a pressure regulator as well. That's fine. So let's just open that for a second, and you should see there goes the pressure. It's being pulled through the system by this, and we're going to need to put a temporary tank on that. We got a tank here, haven't we? Let's just go and drag this around the side. By the way, I did think of putting a ramp up here, but we still can't complete these blocks unless I'm missing something. It certainly doesn't use steel sheets to do it, so if they can be completed by something else, do let me know. I wouldn't mind a ramp up to the roof rather than keep on using jetpack fuel all the time. And let's just pop you on here. Let's hope. Yeah, there you go. And then we can just connect you as normal. There we go. Okay, so you're out of batteries. Let's go and replace the batteries, and then we can just finish up the episode. So let's just grab you. Yeah, there we go. So we can head over to our tank. Portable tank is now at 2 MPa and rising. That is perfectly fine. It's equalizing with this pipe here. So that should equalize out soon. It's at 400 degrees or thereabouts. So let's turn that valve on again. And what we should see is this pressure dropping in the furnace. That's good. This was at quite high pressure. I had put too much stuff in it, but that is perfectly good. We'll wait for that to drain, and I need to go and change the batteries in my backpack as well, because that is also in my portable light, because that's also decided to die. There we go. Alright, so our furnace should now be mostly empty. Yeah, it's dropping through the floor. So once that's finished, we can cut off the vacuum using this valve, or our digital valve in the next episode, and then we can repressurize it by just turning this on. So click, click, and then we'll have something ready. So why don't we give it a try? That's gonna be just depressurizing still. So let's go and grab some ore. I think I brought some back. We've got a few bits and pieces. We've got some iron. We've got a full stack there. Some gold. We've got some silver. So we'll be able to make electrum next episode as well. I'll show you how to make that, because we're going to need that for the digital stuff. And Invar as well, of course. So we've got some copper. So for the moment, let's just make some iron, shall we? And let's just grab the copper as well, because we may as well reuse the heat before we lose it. And are you finished now? Yeah, you're relatively minimal. It's down to 1k. So let's wait for that to drain off camera. Okay, so that is at vacuum, or at least it was at vacuum. I've shut it off. Now I've started the pressure regulator going. So now inside the furnace is a pure furnace mix. H2 66%, O2 34%, and that's rising. It's not rising very fast, so we can either replace it with a volume pump if we want something faster. Then we'd have to work out the volume of gas that we want to pump, I think, or have electronic control of it just to turn it on and off, etc. But the pressure regulator will work as well. It's just a bit slower. You can replace, once we do this with the digital valve, once we've emptied it, we may want to prime it for the next set of stuff, because we'll have a separate furnace here and one here, perhaps with different pressures and potentially different mixes as well. So this is going to work well, but we may need to prime the next setup so that when we come back to actually dump stuff in here, we don't have to wait. It'll already be pressurized. It's already at 75 now. I'm just going to wait till 100 and then we'll trigger it. Let's just see whether the furnace comes up to the right temperature. Otherwise, we just have to adjust this a little bit. It's currently set to 100 kPa. Let's see how well that does. And there it is. We're approaching 100 kPa, 99.7, 99.8, close enough. Turn off the pressure regulator. And that's it primed. We can then either drop our ore in first or trigger it. Let's trigger it and see what it does. That's taking it up to 2.6 MPa and 2,500 Kelvin. So we can just should be able to drop stuff in the top. Why won't they let me import? Oh, well, it helps if you put it in my hand rather than in the backpack. So that's going to make iron. There we go. And we can just do the same thing with some copper. And once that feeds into the furnace, it takes a little while to input, output some copper. And now we've got a system that is at 1500 Kelvin. And if we want to get rid of it, there we go, job done. And it's depressurizing. Of course, it's going to go into that portable tank, which we may want to replace with a full-size tank. But again, that's very, very simple. Nothing I need to show on camera for that. Entirely up to you. So just to briefly close off, 2 tanks going up into past 2 valves. We're going to need one of the valves, but it's useful to have a second one on there that will be automated. We're going to detect the temperature up there once we've got some more alloys made, and that's going to be next episode. And they're going to go into a gas mixer that goes from the gas mixer into the buffer tank, and what will happen there depends on what we input. The buffer tank will then hold the correct gas mix for this particular furnace. We'll have more ones. And then we have from the buffer tank going straight into a pressure regulator, which can prime the furnace, which is dropping quite quickly now. Once that's finished, once we're done with it, we can turn this, we turn the pressure regulator off. Well, in fact, no. Once it's primed, we turn the pressure regulator off, use the furnace. Once we're done with it, open the valve again, and out it goes. And all we need to do is really hook another pipe all the way back over here and deal with something to stop it from being too hot at some point, you know, in here. But that's pretty straightforward, I think. And everything's now built. Of course, I can carry on building the building around it, and then we can put in more buffer tanks. But see what you think. And next episode, we'll get on with the electronics. So if you like this episode, feel free to like, subscribe, share, etc. And I'll see you next episode for more Stationeers. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching.